in there and should get in there early for the Raiders. Do you still think that? When should we see him, given the way he struggled in the preseason?
As soon as humanly possible. Preseason is a liar. Now, what's funny is Fernando Mendoza did his little spin move last night like he did in the national championship game. He got a couple yards, but he wasn't bouncing off guys like he was in Miami Gardens, Florida a couple months ago. It is a different sport, and clocking the speed of the game is what preseason is all about. Preseason stat lines. Notoriously liars. They don't tell you what you're trying to do. Clint Kubiak talked about that interception that we're seeing right here. He said it was a drop pass. In the NFL, that is a drop pass. He's testing his limits. And I was looking at the preseason performance of some of the top quarterbacks in football. Josh Allen, NFL.com, called his first preseason a D grade. Matthew Stafford, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, had a pick 6 in his first ever preseason game. This is what development is. I think you only get better at NFL football by playing NFL football. And I think that you're looking at this, he's trying to make NFL throws. He's trying to clock the speed of a linebacker. What does this safety look like? Where's the nickel going to be? There's so much that goes in with it. And the only way I think that he's going to learn how to play football is by being in there by October at the very latest, guys.
Well, for me, I feel like he predetermined that throw.
Okay.
This is the second consecutive game where he's thrown an interception. And the game is moving at 100 miles per hour. I was talking to Harry about my first experience in the NFL. Coming from Ohio State, being a top 10 pick, starting my first game, I didn't know what was going on out there. The motions, the shifts, the checks. I literally stopped on one play versus the Houston Texans and stood there while the play was going on. I was so confused. So think about a guy like Mendoza. Think about Mendoza. He has to understand the defensive line. He has to understand the coverages, the different disguises. He see the clock counting down. He has to know the protection. He has to know who's hot. He has to know if his receiver is on the line, if this guy is off, who's the motion. And then have you heard offensive play call?
Yeah.
He has to get all of that terminology and then give it to his players and then get the ball snapped in 25 seconds. So I don't think he's ready. I don't think under any circumstance should he touch the field before Game 7 or Game 8. Now, if Kirk Cousins is obviously struggling, if they're 2-5 or 3-4, then maybe you can insert him into the game. But I think that he'll have a great year learning behind Kirk Cousins and from Kubiak. I don't think under any circumstance should he touch the field early in this football season.
Yeah, he's definitely going to benefit having Kirk Cousins in that building, in that quarterback room, because this offensive system Kirk Cousins has been in basically his entire career. Now, the difference between the two quarterbacks when you watch them in preseason, well, Fernando Mendoza, you can tell there's a lot processing in his mind. He's not playing fast. He's not playing quick. There's a lot that he has to worry about as well, too. Look at the timing to when they get the football off. Kirk Cousins is drastically different than it is Fernando Mendoza. And he even said in that soundbite, the game is a little bit faster. I got to get the ball out of my hands quicker and that whole nine. So when it comes to processing information, this is why you do love preseason, because you give these young quarterbacks and these young players that opportunity to get accustomed to the speed. We also have to be honest with ourselves. It's not like that was the first team defense out there for the San Francisco 49ers now.
Yeah,
even though you had guys out there who played, very meaningful snaps, everything that you're experiencing right now in the preseason is going to be ramped up when it comes to the regular season and be that much more faster. Now, what I did love about Fernando Mendoza, he's one of the most positive people I think I've ever seen in my life. It was a time
smiling all the way through that.
Shay, he got sacked last night, and the offensive lineman that gave up the sack, he went and gave a handshake to. But I like on the clock when it's 1 minute and 31 seconds before halftime. Hey, can you take us down and operate situational football and go down there and get us some points? Did a great job hitting his checkdowns. And I thought coming out of halftime, Clint Kubiak as the play caller did a phenomenal job of saying, you know what? Let's get this run game going a little bit. Let's take a little bit more pressure off of our young #1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza. But from my viewpoint of what I'm looking at with Fernando right now, Kirk Cousins is the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. And if I had to pinpoint a time frame, what I would like to see him, that's if Kirk Cousins is not playing at a very tip-top level now. I'm looking at the Jets game on the road. I think that's week 8. That's the benchmark, I would say, for Fernando Mendoza to be able to play.
I was going to say, can we throw the schedule up here for the Raiders? Because this is a little easier to visualize now. So you're saying at the Jets, that is week 8. Okay. So that would come after they play the Patriots, Bills, and the Rams. And What a gauntlet there out of the gates between weeks 3 and week 7. Go ahead, Kevin.
There's a couple things about it. So Clint Kubiak said that from now on, Fernando Mendoza's reps are going to decrease. That's just the way it goes in the NFL. Kirk Cousins is going to get the lion's share of the first team reps. There's not enough reps to go around. That's a training camp problem. Training camp is over. But you guys both know this. This ain't 2010 anymore. This ain't 2009. You can't run two different teams and have the quarterbacks get the same amount of reps. There just aren't there aren't two-a-days anymore. There aren't those opportunities. There aren't padded practices really outside of a handful of times during the season. It is a really, really hard environment to develop a rookie quarterback. The other thing I would say about some of the schemes that they're running here and kind of what we're talking about as far as getting him ready is there's ways to scheme up great stat lines for rookie quarterbacks in the preseason. You roll them out, you hit the tight end, you run screens, you do all that stuff. If they wanted Fernando Mendoza to go 9 of 10 in all of these games with a touchdown and no sacks, they could have done that. They didn't want to do that. They were trying to get him ready to play. And again, it goes back to what we're talking about getting him in the veteran mindset. And Kirk Cousins is going to help with that. But guess what? Kirk Cousins, Harry, is going to be there no matter what happens. He's not going to storm out of the facility if he's benched. If he's the backup in October, he's still going to help. And I talked to Rich Gannon one time, and I said, what's the difference between a young quarterback and a veteran quarterback? And Dante, this piggybacks off of your point. He said that all the complicated things that a young quarterback has to do, where you're talking about a play call that might be 11 words that we think only Oppenheimer can figure out. We're just like, what the heck is that, right? When you're giving all that stuff as a veteran quarterback, it's second nature, and you're looking at the defensive personnel when you're doing it. You're able to multitask. The only way you can get that system going is if you're out there getting time on task. That's why I want to play young quarterbacks early.
But I also don't believe in setting your young quarterback up for failure. Because when I look at this wide receiver group for the Las Vegas Raiders, are they stellar enough for Fernando Mendoza to develop as a quarterback?
But they won't be in November.
Roster.
They won't be in November.
Well, but at least you have – I'm a fan of learning how to be a pro.
Sure.
And being a professional. And guess what? Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant and had to become the starting quarterback early on, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't get those extra reps. There's a thing called being a pro and understanding what you have to do in order to get ready to play on Sundays or whatever day you may have to play. That's a part of being in the National Football League and being a professional.
Let's not kid ourselves. Those weren't intricate defenses out there that he was facing.
No.
I can look on that film right now, not being a quarterback, and tell you exactly what that coverage was, which goes back to the college conversation. They're doing the college quarterbacks disjustice by giving them the signals, the keys to the test from the sideline. So when you get into an NFL offense with intricacies where you have to do all your own thinking and your own checking, they all fail, which is why you don't want to draw up the plays in the preseason. You want them to see the most basic coverages that they can see, know where the primary read is, the second, the third, and not to predetermine your routes and where you're going to throw the football. So that's why I don't believe that Fernando Mendoza is ready. Indiana ran that system last year, and it was one of the major reasons why they won the national championship.
Okay. Fernando Mendoza last night again, 7 of 14, 57 yards, that interception. The Raiders scored 3 points on his 5 drives. Obviously, that's not enough. He also had those 2 sacks. Kirk Cousins only a little bit better. As you said, sometimes preseason stats lie. We don't know who the week 1 starter is going to be just yet, but they have said that Kirk Cousins is QB1, whatever that means. Okay, let's go to Baltimore, where we have a new head coach.